85% of employers believe that people will be more productive working in the office. But most employees don't think so. In fact, 87% of employees believe that they will be more productive working from home. There has been reports about employees in certain companies walking out from work because of the new policy that employers have announced.
What's the new leadership that is needed in order to navigate this?
That is $1 million question, Rodrigo.
The world is changing so fast. How do you ensure you don't stay behind or outdated at work? Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to an exceptional leader I admire, Frank Koo, the head of LinkedIn Asia. We are going to learn how to do remote work effectively. What are the critical skills necessary to thrive in the future of work? And explore the new type of leadership required to succeed. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Let's go! What is something that you truly believe, but it doesn't resonate with other people?
So I believe is really a leadership philosophy that I embrace all this while. And it's my belief that people will do their best work when given the right support, enablement, and empowerment. And so with this philosophy, my leadership practice with my team has always been understanding what their needs, what motivates them, what the long-term aspirations are, and try to align these together so that I am able to best support them to do the best work. Now, in the current environment where there's huge amounts of economic headwinds, there is a call for a more prescriptive and directive approach in leadership. And when I thought about this, initially it was something that is not within my comfort zone. But then later on, I tried to bring these two together to manage, I would say, more effectively right now in an environment that is ever-changing, that's more complex and more uncertain. And to me, it's still a learning journey, but I believe that by blending these two together right now, that I'll be able to manage in a more agile fashion.
I love that balance, that tension between those two. That's very interesting. I read on your LinkedIn bio that I support people and teams to achieve positive transformation with joy. What does this mean to you?
Oh, wow, you just articulated my life purpose statement. And I developed this life purpose statement in the midst of my coaching program that I took on during COVID. And so there are a couple of key elements down here in this life purpose statement. First of all is people and teams. So, business leaders, a lot of times they want to focus on different things. Some people have highlights on strategy, some on the use of technology, some on the process that will help the business and organization become successful. I personally think my biggest contribution to a business success is in enabling people and teams. So that's one. And the second thing about my life purpose is focusing on positive transformation. So positive transformation can be either developing a good habit, changing behaviors, having a life purpose or an aspiration, or even removing limiting beliefs. But the key thing is that there needs to be certain impact in this transformation, right? So positive impact to that person and positive impact to the people around this person. And the third part is joy. Right? So my thinking is that, what's the use of transforming yourself, or for that matter, what's the use of doing well at work if you do not find joy and happiness? And so with this, I actually build my life purpose statement, which is really about supporting people and teams to achieve positive transformation with joy.
So it looks like it's very, very clear for you, and it is helping you in your life. What is the importance to have that clarity in terms of our personal purpose?
Wow. Rodrigo, this is 100%. 100% it has affected me so much. It has not only allowed me to really have a true north, right, to actually guide my development as well as my engagement, but it also helps me to prioritize my time, my responsibilities, and even my relationship building on a day-to-day basis. And typically what I do is I try to actually have a high priority for things that is very much aligned with my life purpose. So to give you an example, all the business leaders right now are asked to deliver better results. No doubt about that. So the question is that, how do you do that? And what I find is that I think I do best if I'm able to enable my teams to, first of all, understand what positive transformation is, and secondly, what joy and happiness is for them. And I try to help them to align their true north with what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And I find that once the alignment is there, they would have good performance. And they would have good performance in a sustainable way. And that brings me joy. So in a sense, it's like a virtuous cycle where doing my work aligned with my life purpose is helping people, at the same time, helping me fulfill my life purpose. And that becomes very energizing for me.
I think it's very powerful. One of my previous guests, Paul, he was stating a quote, which is, when the why is clear, the how is easy, right?
Indeed. So if you are able to align the why with the how and the what.
Yeah.
So what is really what you do.
Exactly.
How is how you do it. So when the how you do it supports the what, which is what you what you do as well as the goal that our company gives us, and the how is also aligned with the why, then there is a virtual cycle in place that will help fulfill the overall objectives, either in the short term as well as in the long term as well.
Totally agree. Frank, not a bad way to start our conversation. What has happened at the workplace since the pandemic started?
Right. I think a lot of things have happened in the workplace, as you know. But there are two things that I thought was a big change in the mindset of people. The first one is with the employees. So a lot of people, professionals or otherwise, they are asking not what they do alone, but why they're doing what they do. Right? So in fact, a lot of them has actually voted with their feet. And some change jobs because they want to find meaning in what they do, and they find that doing another thing in another company is more aligned with the meaning they're looking for. And some, in fact, opted out from a professional career. And now we call this the Great Resignation, but that was one of the big change in the workforce at the time. And another one really relates to leaders or employers. Now, a lot of them have become a lot more empathetic and compassionate to the people that they manage, because almost for the first time, many of the leaders are working and living in conditions that are very similar to people 4 or 5 rungs below them. Right? They have to work from home, manage the children, even doing household work, having limited support from the EAs because they're working remotely, and having to go into meetings online, and probably not everyone is present, or if they are, you may not be able to see. So the condition is similar, and as a result, I find a lot of leaders have developed this compassion and empathy for the people that work for them in a way that they've never experienced before. And so we found that companies were coming out with programs to enable people to work well at home, to support their mental wellness, and to ensure that employees have a great experience, right? More so during COVID than before. So these are some of the things I thought were positive changes, right? And I hope it's sustainable because that, I believe, would drive a more engaged workforce as well as more enlightened leadership for many people.
But that also brings a lot of changes. It impacts the workplace, the leaders, the people. What are the implications of those two changes that you mentioned?
Wow, it's a very interesting question, Rodrigo. You know, three years right now, post the start of COVID, leaders are facing another big challenge. I think the big challenge is really about balancing between driving profitability for the business, and a lot of times is related to cost savings, and investing in employee welfare, employee development on the other hand. And so these two objectives can be conflicting, right? At the same time, employees are asking for more because remember the Great Resignation and people want to find meaning. They want to make sure that companies take care of their welfare and wellness. And so they're asking for more. Now, leaders then find it particularly challenging. But what I've seen is that for companies who actually focus in investing in the right way on employee development and employee wellness, they will be able to enhance the productivity of the workforce as well as transformation of the company in a more sustainable way. Well, so I also hope that leaders can actually have that kind of balance, not just to manage for the short term, but also look at the long-term transformation of the organization as well as the employees.
I think there needs to be a lot of self-awareness and openness to understand there's things has changed, right? And how leaders can adjust to this new way of working. And I think what you mentioned also before about remote working, where there's a lot of, I see on LinkedIn, a lot of conflict about policies of remote working. I found the policy from LinkedIn very inspiring. Can you share how LinkedIn handled the remote work?
Wow. Yes, we've been thinking hard and long about this, even during COVID. And we decided that we should operate on a certain principle. And the principle is that we trust employees to do their best work where and when it works best for them. And so, based on this underlying principle, we have a policy of enabling the managers and the employees to decide, what works best for the team and based on trust. So as a result, we had a more liberal kind of hybrid work plan. And we also decided that during that time, we need to learn as we go along. And fast forward to now, we realized that, first of all, having flexibility is important for everyone. At the same time, employees want to have connection. Right? So we are trying to have a more focused approach towards enabling people to come back to office for connection. For instance, having meals together, having meetings together, having bonding activities together. At the same time, enable a certain level of flexibility so that they can work best where it works for them. And we're still in the learning journey, I would say. I know some companies have provided a more prescriptive approach. There were different reactions from employees. But so far, we believe that we want to ensure that the elements of trust and flexibility is there for everyone. At the same time, we provide an avenue for connection for everyone as well.
And I think for me, Frank, I think something that also leaders are struggling in this journey going remote is that I think we were used to before on everyone is at the office. It was a lot focused on what are you doing? And now it's more about I think now that the mindset that needs to shift is from what are you doing, from what are you achieving? And not focus too much on the where or how you are doing, but making sure that the people achieve the outcomes and support them.
Absolutely. Yes, it's really about transforming from measuring the inputs to really focusing on the outputs.
That's it.
right? And giving the autonomy
That's
to
it.
people to do the work best. Because as you know, Rodrigo, I think people love autonomy
Yeah.
as well as some level of empowerment so that they would be able to really innovate on what they do and perhaps come up with more creative and more productive ideas on doing the work well.
Yeah. And something that I love is like what you said, like, we don't know it all. We learn while we are doing. I love that. Managing the business today, but also thinking ahead so that you can prepare for the future. So if you think about the future, based on, I think you have access to a lot of information in LinkedIn, what do you foresee being the top skills that leaders need to have in the future of work?
Right. Well, it's interesting, Rodrigo. One thing we saw about top skill is that it changes all the time. So when we talk about the skills that's required to future-proof the organization as well as the workforce, I think it's good to classify them into probably 3 key categories. One is the hard skill, the skill that's required for everyone to be able to do the job in the best way possible. So for instance, if you are a structural engineer, you need to have the engineering skills, right? If not, you just can't do your work. And then there's another part which is the adaptive skills. Skills related to digitalization, artificial intelligence, sustainability. These are the adaptive skills that many professionals will need to embrace and adopt because the work that they do is continuously going to be impacted by some of these new learnings and skills. We have seen how, say for instance, a structural engineer will need to understand about how to have a sustainable way of, let's say, delivering on the role. We have seen how AI, or more recently, generative AI, is impacting how they do analysis. We have also seen how technology is changing the way the work is going to be conducted. So adaptive skills are going to be key in supporting every profession to do the job well. And then the third part is soft skills. Skills such as collaboration, communications, critical thinking, decision-making, leadership. These are the transferable skills that will help every professional or every worker to be able to pivot into different areas where the environment requires in a very sustainable way. And this is something that a lot of organizations are focusing on at the moment because there's recognition that individuals can't do the work alone. There's a need for partnering with people either within the organization or outside the organization in the same location or different locations. So soft skills has risen to the top as some of the most important skills in many organizations at the moment.
And the organizations that you are in contact, where do you see the gaps, the organizations that are trying to adjust for today's work, where do you see the gap?
Well, there are a couple of gaps that exist right now between the leaders as well as the workforce in helping the whole organization transform. I'll call out perhaps 2 of them. First of all is the skills gap. Right? Employees want to be able to develop the skills so that they can develop their career, especially in the midst of enormous skills obsolescence as well as role change, right? But at the same time, employers are trying to make sure that people do their work now, bring in the business, bring in the profitability. So therein lies a bit of a disconnect between how do you invest in employee skills development versus getting people to deliver the best at the moment. Right? And then the second one I would say is what we call the productivity paranoia. So this is a term that actually came out from the recent Microsoft Work Trends Index survey. And it talks about the productivity gap as is considered by both the employers and employees. So I remember in the survey, 85% of employers believe that people will be more productive working in the office. But most employees don't think so. In fact, 87% of employees believe that they will be more productive working from home. And that's where Microsoft calls this the productivity paranoia. And so the question is that with this gap, how will employers or business leaders think about how to build an effective and fulfilling hybrid work environment for everyone? I think the jury is still out. People are still figuring out. And as I shared with you in LinkedIn, we believe that we are still in the learning journey.
That number is unbelievable. So 85% of people, employers believe that they will be more productive at the office, and 87% of employees believe that they will be more.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I can share the report with you. It is, when I read this, I thought, wow, that is a big problem. Yeah, and you see a lot of employers asking people to come back to office full time, right? We have heard news, about investment banks. It says, no questions asked, 5 days per week. Some companies say, well, 3 days, and we'll use your access card to track your presence, and it may affect your performance. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, there has been reports about employees in certain companies walking out from work because of the new policy that employers have announced. And so I think there's going to be some navigation on both sides to come to a certain equilibrium. And the idea of hybrid work is actually different for different industries and different companies as well. There will be essential workers that need to be there more often. There will be other people who can work remotely, and maybe better to work remotely than on-site. So I think most companies will need to learn and adjust along the way.
I love, so you say, well, there's this tension between the employees and the employers, and I love the word that you use, that they need to navigate this, but also learn on the way to make sure that they adjust fast to what is happening.
Right, yeah.
So my next question would be, then what's the new leadership that is needed in order to navigate this?
That is $1 million question. Well, we can probably classify it as agile leadership. Right? To me, agile leadership means the ability to navigate the uncertainties and complexities in the environment with a certain level of ease and also a certain level of authenticity and humility on the side of a leader. And what it is that we know that the environment is ever-changing, right? At the same time, there are certain key performance requirements for every business, for every leader. So if a leader can establish a true north for the organization to really have what I would think of as the creating the right vision and be able to articulate the conviction of purpose for the organization and the employees, rally them to move forward, but at the same time have the humility to share that this is what we think will work. It's not 100% certain, but this is a strategy that will bring us to the next level. Let's move along together and we learn along the way. And we can make adjustment along the way. Now, this is real, this is practical, and I think this will enable employees to have better adoption of the strategy and also be able to follow the leader to go through the thicks and thins of the economic cycle.
Frank, that is so good. I love it so much.
Thank you. I truly believe that, and I think that the leader today is very different from the leaders of yesterday. And we need to be able to really manage in an agile fashion with consideration of employee welfare and their development so that the whole organization can transform sustainably and towards a better future.
And you used a couple of times the word that leaders, we don't need to know everything, but we need to have the humility to learn and be open to what's ahead and build as it comes. I really, really love that. So,
Right.
But now I would like to learn from you, like your example. How have you been adjusting to this new reality?
Right. I recently picked up this philosophy, right, or this term called a permanent beta. Right. It's actually from the book called The Startup of You by LinkedIn's founder, Reid Hoffmann. And a permanent beta is really, in the technology terms, beta is a phase where a product is not exactly ready, but it's going through testing and learning so that we can evolve into what we call a MVP, a most viable product that is ready for market. But even when you introduce the MVP to the market, you continue to test and iterate. So as it relates to individual development purpose, I think an idea of permanent beta is to see everyone or ourselves as never a complete product, but always a work in progress, where we are able to experiment with a sense of curiosity, test out new ideas, and learn along the way so that we can become better. So personally, I embrace a permanent beta mindset, and I try to always start with a sense of curiosity, learn new things, try to stretch myself outside my comfort zone so that I can be a better person and a better leader all the time. And I hope it works. And getting myself outside my comfort zone, I try to do something that is, in my consideration, very difficult. And I started signing up and going for Latin dance classes. It started with salsa, and I'm learning bachata right now. And it was difficult for me because, as I shared, Rodrigo, dancing, is in the Portuguese culture, we're in, but it's not very much in the Singaporean culture, at least not on the days when I was growing up. And also, I was very bad musically. I have a bad sense of rhythm. People say I was born with 2 left feet. But I thought, because it's so difficult, and if I can learn something about it, then I can overcome some other more difficult things in life. And so I signed up for the Latin dance classes. Along the way, I learned a couple of things. Right? First of all, the realization that indeed I have 2 left feet. And during the classes, I find that I took a longer time to follow the instructor's instruction and the demo than many of my fellow classmates. And also I realized that my sense of rhythm wasn't that good. But importantly, I also learned something that's more positive. First of all, is really to remove the self-critic in me. So at the beginning of the dance lessons, I would tell myself that, Frank, you are slow. You're slower than your classmates. You have not been following the music well, and you take a much longer time to learn. And slowly I realized that such thinking is actually holding me back. And I decided to change the way I think, right? From what I used to think to thinking about, when you put in effort, you look at the video that you record from the dance lessons, you can always improve. And then I found that my learning actually accelerated. And the second thing I learned is what the author James Clear wrote about in his book, Atomic Habits. And he said that if you're doing something very difficult, focus on the fun part. And Rodrigo, bachata dance, salsa dance is fun, right? So when I started focusing on the fun part, focusing on enjoying the music, focusing on seeing how people can dance so well, then I realized that my progress has also improved. So back to the point of permanent mindset and stretching outside the comfort zone, I think this has provided me with very good lessons on how to really hopefully progress in life by taking on difficult things that are very new to me.
Frank, you are a box of surprises.
I try to surprise myself all the time.
So good, so good. And now, what level are you in your dance?
Oh, still basic level, right? I must say that I'm still struggling, but I'm watching and rewatching some of those dance videos and practicing it so that I can improve along the way. And hopefully one day I can join you in salsa dance, and provide the follower with a good dancing experience.
Let's do this, Frank.
Absolutely. Look forward to that.
I also love dance. But I love that. I love that. And I love how you are just going for it. And I think a lot of times what stops us from just trying new things are just that self-critic voice.
Absolutely.
And you listen to that voice, but you went for it. And you focus on improving and also what's the fun of it. So I love, what a wonderful way to end our conversation. Frank, thank you so much for coming. I didn't know, I only knew you from the social media, and I always admire you as a leader, but I had the opportunity to go deeper, and I'm really impressed with your humility, your growth mindset, and also how you are so focused on also bringing a positive transformation to others with joy. Thank you so much, and continue that permanent beta.
Thank you, Rodrigo. It was so fun sharing with you and learning from you. And I know that there are 3 things I need to learn from you in time to come. The first thing is really about meditation. The second thing is about how do you use data to actually help your self-improvement. And really, the third thing is social dance. You'll always be my coach. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming, Frank.